I present the sweatiest movie we have ever watched on this show.
Oh
Maybe
my Lord.
We just did Cool Hand Luke, and
Uh-huh.
yet this one tops it.
this
Uh-huh.
one is twice as sweaty as Cool Hand Luke.
I
I
think
think they were
it's the
just
black
hosing.
and white really
The
accentuates
perspiration, the perspiration in this movie should have had a screen credit.
I know.
Such a dominant part of the narrative.
I think they were just hosing the actors down.
I know.
Covering them in glycerin, probably.
Or they were just filming outside in LA in the summer.
Well, in Thousand Oaks in summer.
Yeah, that's the
With no air conditioning. That's all I need to do, right?
Oh,
With a water bottle, right?
And these
Oh,
people at this point in time are eating nothing but beef and drinking nothing but whiskey. So there's a lot of natural perspiration happening.
It's huge kudos to the production in terms of like it looked
pretty good.
like it was supposed to be set in like Singapore, right? It
Yeah.
looked great. It looked like Singapore. It was all
looked
filmed
cool,
in LA.
yeah.
And they brought in a British director, British cast. I mean, it's like amazing stuff. I mean, they did a really good job on this thing.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that like I knew like Chip Chase would talk about it sometimes, and I'd never seen it. It's I don't think it exists on Blu-ray.
Mhm.
And it was fun as hell. Like the other one, we didn't really talk about how much fun it is to sort of like spot folks who
Oh
in
God,
other
yeah.
movies.
Especially talking about Hogan's Heroes, Richard
Well, yeah.
Dawson comes in at the end.
Yeah,
No, that crowd was
But
crazy.
This one had almost as many. Oh, there's that guy.
Yeah.
I would argue, and maybe somebody. I'm still not entirely sure what it's about at a big picture level, but it was riveting.
It was.
Like I just, and George Segal, I'm still not 100% sure he was the right guy for this part, but I like him in it anyway.
Mm.
It's this one and the one he did after it, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
That was 63. This is 65. He did that first.
Oh, so it's before.
Yeah. And then he was kind of a rising star at that point. This is kind of his next big movie.
And
allegedly,
I
he
haven't
was
seen
the
that.
third picked actor for this.
Really?
He was third. He was
Yeah.
third pick.
But he said later on that the first two, the director actually rejected because he secretly wanted him the whole time.
Nah.
Yeah.
So
Fun.
That's his version of events.
I think.
but he was they worked together several times after this. So like
This
there was
guy,
definitely
both these guys,
Edward Fox.
Edward Fox.
both these
Yeah.
guys,
James
Tom
Fox.
Courtney. Yeah.
James
Tom
Fox.
Courtney
James
and
Fox.
Edward Fox are.
James Fox, yeah.
They're
Oh,
so
yeah.
good.
It's almost you should either pair this with what is the one, The Crown and the something, when he finally came back to acting, or performance.
Yeah, because he bailed on movies for a while.
Who are we talking about?
James Fox.
Oh, Fox.
After
He's my- he's
performance, he
James Fox.
basically went off
James
and
Fox.
became a missionary in England.
Right.
Wait, are there two Fox brothers, Edward and James?
I don't think they're related.
No, they're talking about James Fox, the guy who
But
was
they
in.
kind of look alike, right?
No, this guy's
Well, they're skinny
this guy's in
Brits.
Performance in this one, and
Performance.
Kevin the other side
He's
ended
my-
up in Absolute Beginners. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
James Fox. He's my Marlowe, right? He's my favorite
Yes.
character in this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great.
He is definitely good.
he's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's the owner of the film. He's the one watching everything happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes.
He narrates it
I
basically.
mean, like,
Yeah, even though George Segal's clearly the title character,
Yeah.
I think you're right, Scott.
Yeah.
Which I forgot to mention about Stalag 17. It's being narrated by Cookie, who seems like the worst person to narrate the
I know.
film.
It's
Mhm.
unreliable narrator. It's like, oh, he was,
Yeah.
Cookie's the only one. But the Cookie's the only one who knew him well.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So this movie's about 10 years older than the one we just talked about, and
Right,
boy, what a
60.
difference!
65.
10 years younger.
What a difference!
I know.
And I don't think Americans would have been capable at this point of making a movie this dark.
Mm.
It's just like everybody, except
I was-
for the policeman.
Yeah.
Everybody is just in on the. It's like, oh yeah, well, we just got to do something.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
with,
point out
with
one
the
film-
exception of the Lieutenant Gray, Tom Courtney
Yeah,
character,
Yeah.
who is maybe the most interesting character. I mean, when they had the whole kerfuffle about the weights, they were
Yes.
weighing the food, and
Oh,
he took
yeah.
it all the way up to the top to the colonel, And the
Yes.
colonel's like, okay, well, we're just gonna forget it. This whole thing happened. I thought
And
he was
he's
gonna
like, I
fucking-
still have the weights.
I thought he was gonna
Do
fucking
you?
snap. I thought he was gonna kill him right there on the spot.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna snap because he was so rocked by
Yeah.
that.
Well,
And
yeah.
at first you could just say, well, he's just this jarhead. He's power mad. He just wants to assert his authority. But I think it was really like his sense of morality. It was his sense of right and wrong was the only thing
It's
he had.
partially morality and it's partially he's lower class, obviously. As
Oh, there's some
opposed to all the
class
other
stuff in here that was
officers.
not in.
Oh,
There's
that's
a
a good
bunch of
good
class
point,
stuff
Jim.
going
I
on.
didn't think of
Well,
that.
I mean,
he's hanging
one
on.
of the last lines of the movie is him saying like,
Everything's going to change.
like
Right,
the
they
lower
threw
class is
Churchill
coming up.
out.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's
Like-
that. Well, that's how George Siegel's character get away with everything because he was outside of the that
The
Hierarchy.
hierarchy.
He
Hierarchy.
specifically says, "I'm not in your 2-bit army. I'm in our 2-bit army."
Two-bit
Exactly.
army, yeah.
Great
Which is-
line.
which in some ways is good. In some ways, it's kind of weird. It's like
so
you know what I mean.
Well,
this was a real thing where you had these people who like were mixed together from these different militaries,
Right.
and it's like, I don't have to salute you.
Mhm.
You're not a
Yeah.
lieutenant in my army,
Right.
like, you know.
Yeah.
But they would
You got a
assign
touch of that in the Spielberg flick too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit, a little bit.
you would
With
assign
Malkovich.
these people roles, and you would say like, oh, this guy is the the cop, this guy
Yeah.
is the in charge of this bunk or whatever, and
Where's your
other people would be
armband,
like,
Jason?
why?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't understand your authority. You don't have the right to say anything to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
prisoners
And that
here.
comes
What
at the
hell?
end when the Patrick O'Neill character just flips out because he
Right.
outranks.
Right, he's a
Siegel.
sergeant and the other guy's a
Well,
corporal.
So-
That reminded me a lot of the scene in, and so I wonder if he saw this, but the scene in A Few Good Men where he's like, I give orders all the time. I give orders to people and they just laugh at me and they just walk away. Like, what are you talking about? There's an order that you have to go kill someone. Like that. What? No. Like it's very much like that because it's this. Yeah, you're in the military, but you're so divorced from like that structure that you just sort of, it gets a little Lord of the Fliesy
Yeah.
in there.
Well, it's a lot different
That's-
from
that's
the
term, that's a
Peter
good term.
Bull Bridge on the River Kwai, where they try Guinness basically holds it all together and
Yeah.
makes
With
it be
the military
British.
aspect,
Yeah,
by really strictly adhering to that hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it I just wish this movie wasn't every single trope from every single POW movie, from every single prison movie, except this movie does not have random acts of violence by the guards.
It
That's
does.
you don't even see them until
They're
the
barely-
last
Right.
third of
they're
the
almost
The
movie.
Japanese are
invisible.
barely in this
I
movie.
know.
You only see him when he's buying the watch or selling
Yeah.
the watch.
Yeah.
Like that's really the only time you see any
Yeah.
guards.
And you
And
know,
that
and then
guy's
the
a
end.
melee,
and you're making a
too.
good
He's
point
not
because this
even
was
Japanese.
65
Right.
and by 65 that trope had been well established. So it was
Yeah.
borrowing a lot at this point.
Speaking of tropes, it was funny after we, it was a couple of weeks ago we watched Empire of the Sun, and then we just watched these two back to back. And when he pulled out the Foot Locker with all his good
Yeah.
stuff in it, she was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, there it is again."
Yeah.
And there it was in like Salt Lake 17 too. Oh, there
Yeah,
was
I
the
know. It was
Foot Locker,
sweet
the
to
camera, it's
see.
like, oh, that I want that Foot Locker, man.
Yeah.
Now, what this film reminded me most of, did everyone hear or see a film called Mickey 1?
No, heard
Came
of
out
No,
in 19, I can recommend it later on, but it's 1965 as well, directed by Arthur Penn. It was a
Ooh.
film he made just before Bonnie and Clyde.
Ooh.
It had Warren Beatty in it, and he plays this kind of like this broken down comedian who gets accused of a murder by the mob, and he's running from the mob, and he takes an assumed name. It has this kind of weird anti-hero charismatic feel, which is what this film I think is trying to say. Before they could do like Bonnie and Clyde and like Cool Hand Luke and have a real anti-hero, this is kind of like a proto anti-hero. This
Hmm.
character, he's like, yeah, he's an operator, and he's selling eggs, and he's like selling rat meat to officers and like that, and you're supposed to cheer him on a bit, like, yeah, right on, stick it to the man kind of thing, right? But it's before it really got codified in a lot of ways. You know, this is still we're coming out from the old code Hollywood to kind of like the new Hollywood in this film.
You know, you call George Siegel's character an anti. I don't know that he's heroic the way.
I'm not saying he's an anti-hero because it wasn't invented yet.
Yeah,
It's like
No,
this is a transitional hero.
he's kind of a horrible person.
Well, I mean,
He's not Paul Newman, you know.
Well, in other words, the thing is that you're right, because you're actually correct, because the end of the film says what you're saying. At the end, he's just nobody. He's just
nobody, and
he's
that's
an insect. He's nobody. He vanishes.
Of going
That's a great transition where he's just, you can see it on his face. He realizes it's like someday this
Well,
war's
he
going to end.
realizes it's
Yeah,
over.
someday
He-
this
Well,
war's
it's the
gonna
same with-
end.
it's the same with
Out of
Christian
it
Bale at the
beforehand.
end of Empire of the Sun.
Empire
Like,
of the
I'm
Sun.
not important anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Exactly
Like,
right.
because in that movie, what you watch is you watch him be important, lose importance, and then regain importance, and then lose it again. Here,
Right.
you don't ever see what he was like before this. You don't even see him without importance. He starts very important. He's important through the whole movie, and then
Yeah.
it just
And then-
goes off a cliff at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's on a truck rolling away.
And also, you realize at the end is like there's like, well, this guy's selling rat meat to officers. It's like you can't get more debased than that. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I don't, and
I didn't
don't,
think that stuck. I mean, like if that it was all leading up to that scene where they're all snickering because the officers are eating rat.
Yeah.
Felt like it was a little like you could have pulled that entire
But-
out of the movie.
I think they were
It-
trying to
it's
say
There's
totally-
some
it's
clumsy
totally
staging.
I
ironic.
think they're trying to say that
because
things have gotten that bad at this
They
point.
all eat
And this guy's
dog and like it.
leadership is so resolute and authoritarian that this is what has come out of it. This guy
That's a
is
good
actually-
point, though, that Jim just made, is that we've just seen them eat dogs. So seeing somebody else eat a rat is
Oh.
not that big.
That
of
was a terrible, terrible, terrible.
And it was a dog they knew.
yes.
I know that's
Which they debate in the scene. It's like,
know.
oh,
Yes.
it's different if you know the dog.
If you know the dog.
We're all dog people, so we actually none of us can handle that scene.
Oh no, I was horrified. But I just wanted to point out that the camera work in that and the
I don't know.
opening,
The scene in High Rise is worse.
Oh yes,
there's some camera work in this thing. I really sort of the polar opposite of Stalag 17, where I was sort of repelled by the first hour. This thing I was on board from the get-go because I
Wow.
loved the way it looked. Parts of it kind of looked like a Wiseman documentary or something. The way they cut to people's faces.
It was definitely, it was shot in a more modern way.
Yeah.
Really
And that's why I said 10 years
contrast-
later, and look at the difference in this.
Oh, yeah.
I watched this movie. I finished this movie 2.5 hours ago,
Mhm.
and I cannot remember if it's in black and white or not until I put this still up.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And also,
That's a good thing.
speaking
Yeah,
of,
because
It's in
like,
his mind.
It was so real
Yeah,
looking
Yeah.
that I could
I-
see color that wasn't there.
When I
Interestingly
chose it,
enough-
I haven't seen it in like 30 years, and I was convinced it was in color.
Oh,
Right,
wow.
this is what
Oh.
I'm saying.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you're bringing this up
My
because this was-
memory of this is in color.
They say
From
you
2.5
dream in
hours
black
ago.
and white. It's like
The
I don't
weird thing-
remember them
okay,
being black and
what's
white.
weird is this is one of the last purposeful black and white movies that Hollywood produced, because the transition to color happened between 1958 and 1962.
This is pretty late for black and white, isn't it?
Everything was color. You know, if they made black and white, it was a choice to do it. It was a
Mm.
choice.
Well, the apartment's in color.
No, black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was
And
19,
that's,
that was
62
60. That was 60, but it was also in
60.
CinemaScope. But this was like, we're gonna shoot this spherical and black and white. We're making a statement here, make it look
Mhm.
kind of stark in the
Also,
World War II-ish.
it would have been cheaper.
One of the last films
Yeah.
they made
Yeah.
purposefully in black. This is the same year as HUD, which is filmed in black and white and scope as well.
And most people's recollection of World War II would have been black.
That's
and white.
that's why they
black
did
and
it.
white.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At that point, it was a choice.
Well, those that
done.
weren't there.
You know,
Well, sure. I'm saying, but if you watch, anybody who's going to see this movie would have only really known this as being like stuff that happened on
Yeah.
newsreels. You know,
Yeah.
photos in Life magazine.
That's why it's always weird to see footage from the Navy, the U.S. Navy, the World War II footage, because it's all in color.
Yes,
It
there
just
is a
doesn't look
bunch of
right.
color footage of World War
That's
II.
16 millimeter
Um,
extra chrome
back when-
25. They're out there like these guys like filming all this stuff. It's all in color.
Back when the History Channel wasn't nothing but bullshit, they used to have a series called The Color of War.
World
and
War
it
II in
was-
color.
It was World War II
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
Well, because the
And-
Germans shot everything in color too.
Right, and the Air
So it
Force
wasn't
did a little
colorized
bit,
footage,
where
it was
the Army,
actual-
the
No,
Army
No, it was
Air
actual color.
Corps-
It was
The Americans
actual
had
color
Chrome
footage, yeah.
25, which is 16 millimeter film. It's like home movie footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Germans had AGFA. So it was like, it was
Also-
a lot of color.
Also, the guys who shot still photos for the Navy got into a bunch of trouble because they ordered a bunch of Leica cameras that they bought through like Switzerland or something.
Oh, German made cameras are.
German-made cameras. Yes.
Well, they're good cameras, damn it.
They were. They said we
Damn it.
because before that they had all used those what are the Speedoflex or whatever.
Speedflex.
Speedflex,
Those
yeah,
big-
the
those
big,
flip cameras. Yeah, the big,
press
the medium
cameras with
format
the-
ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're really bulky.
Oh,
My
yeah.
kids are 35 millimeter. They're really easy and portable, and you can shoot with them really
yeah.
easy.
It was like point and shoot, and
Now going
it
back to
was-
this thing, this prison is still in operation. These guys were in.
Yes,
It's in
it's
Singapore.
also next to the airport.
It's in the airport. It's actually near, it's in the outskirts of Singapore, which is on the
Yeah.
equator, which is why everyone's
Whoa.
sweaty all the time.
'Cause
And
I
Wow.
landed at that airport.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or I
Singapore's
took off
like
from it.
Singapore's like 2 degrees north latitude.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
It's-
Yes.
Yeah,
I
it's-
want to
it's-
shout out. I want to shout out the
awful.
wordless transitional scene. It's pretty much there just to show time passing, but it's raining. Everybody's
Yeah.
sweating in this movie, and then there's a scene where it rains,
monsoon.
And
And
they're
that
out there,
rain
like-
must have been awful.
and it's just everybody standing like this. Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, and then
also-
everyone has trench foot the next
Yeah.
day. Like,
yeah.
I know. And also where they show the big leach field, all those I forgot what they called them, the bog.
The bog.
The
Bog.
bog.
The
Oh, when they
big-
pull the guy out of the bog.
Oh my god, that was disgusting. But that's how they
Sheila
did
called
like-
it. I said, "Who is that?" She goes, "It's the guy. It's the guy."
It's the guy who was cheating on Rice or whatever.
Yeah.
committed
she-
suicide or got murdered.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then-
got
and
murdered.
the doctor
One
was
of
like,
them.
well,
We're not sure
well, he
which.
deserved it, right? And he's like,
But I can't
yeah.
believe
Either
they
way.
actually showed it. You
Yeah.
know, even the guys in Stalag 17 never went to the latrine, obviously. You
Well,
know, this one showed it. You know,
I-
they only
I-
hid
I
in
was-
the latrine.
I was grateful they didn't go further with all the ripple effect of living in a sweaty environment like this. Like they could have gone like really dark with some of the shit that would do to your body.
tropical illnesses and like
feet.
parasites and worms and shit
Your
like that. I
feet.
know. It's like,
Oh God!
thank
fucking-
God. Yeah.
We
thank
got
fucking
gangrene
God.
though. We got gangrene.
It did get
Yeah.
But that was just gangrene. That's because
Scott
And the thing where
John,
they're like farming
What, Chris?
roaches.
Scott
yes,
John,
the roach farming.
how much
The roach farming.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Although those
Did
are
you guys-
Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
Yes, Chris.
Yes.
did any of you guys think about the guy from Andor watching this character?
A little bit. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Come
Yeah,
on.
the guy that eats the cereal. What's his
I
name?
know. I know. A
Well,
little bit.
He's like
The-
it's
the
like,
shit-
but the difference is
The shitty
Cyril
Empire
Karn.
guy.
That's
because that's a scripted television show with time to like pull at it. Like you really do understand why he's like that.
yes.
As
This
soon as you meet
guy-
his mother.
Guy
I know.
is just like that, and you don't really know why he's like that.
Yeah.
And
Although
that's
he does,
funny.
he does have an amazing comeuppance at the end when this dude's like, he gave you hate.
that, and I was just gonna get to that. That
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
that line, like
Yes.
when George Siegel is driving away, I'm like, oh fuck, really? That's how we're gonna end this? No.
Right.
The ending is Fox going.
That
Yeah.
line.
He
That's
gave-
the last line.
Delivering the line.
That
And
is
of
the
course,
last
that
line.
character is based
He
on
sustained you
James
because of
Flavel,
hate.
right?
I was like,
Right.
whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
but it has
Yeah.
both of them get a win in that
Yes.
conversation because the other guy gets we're the ones who threw out Churchill.
Yeah.
Like, the world is changing.
Right.
It's
You're
be
gonna
a
go
labor
back to a
government.
world. You're gonna go back to a world you don't recognize. And he's like, yeah, well, he gave you hate. So they both have
They
this.
both have their
That's
moment.
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
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 That one line for me was like, whoa, this just went from good to great.
I
Yep.
did. It was a nice ending.
That pushed me up to here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a few things that I would quibble with there where the impact, like the eating the rat meat. The scene where Richard Dawson, the paratrooper, comes in and that's awkwardly staged. I just didn't buy
Oh,
that suddenly every officer is just mute and just stands there. That just seemed unrealistic to
I
me.
thought the scene with the Japanese though, where they were reading the surrender,
Yeah.
Yes.
that was
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? The awkwardness
that.
of the whole thing. When they read the word surrender, what are
Yes.
they gonna do?
That
What is
was-
everyone supposed to do now?
that was
Like,
fucking
Yeah, Richard Dawson come in and just take guns out and throw it in the ground. It's
Well,
like,
because
you're done.
you-
You know, it's like,
All
go
he had to
home.
do was shoot one guy shot a gun in the air and it was
Yeah,
over.
right.
I
Yeah,
like, I
but
But
like
it
when
was
he
a
takes
Webley.
I like when he takes the Nambu pistol and he's just like looking around, and then he starts walking over to them and just hucks it off to the side. He's just
Yeah.
like, I don't
Yeah,
fucking
But
know
remember, the lead up to that is the war is going to end and the Japanese are going to kill us all,
this. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, nope,
which
didn't
is
happen.
not at all what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But they had
Does
heard,
anybody
but they
know
had
anything-
heard, but they had heard stories, and this is true, of the Japanese killing everyone in POW camps that were about to be overrun.
That's
Hmm.
true.
Like,
That happened.
That's stuff that happened in the war.
Mhm.
It's just that when the war ended, the Japanese morale was so broken by the surrender that they didn't do that thing that they were gonna do. Like
No,
they
not at
were
all.
just
Listen to the surrender, like we're going to try to like
Speech?
make the world a better place.
I was
Right.
going to
Yes.
bring this up. This was the next thing I was coming out of my mouth, Chris, which was, does anybody know how accurate that weird speech was? Because it has
I
so
gotta
much
imagine
regret.
that's verbatim.
some
it
of
has
it is
so much
some of it is
regret in
some
it.
of it is very
Yeah.
some of it's very
sounds about
accurate. I
right.
don't think the whole thing is, but some of it is.
I was surprised that they mentioned the bombing explicitly, the atomic
Yeah.
bomb.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing about like, we regret everything that happened. We're going to try to build a better world. It was just,
Right, I
it's,
heard
it's
that.
Think about how much is that Bushido code kind of
fucking A.
Yeah,
I
that's-
mean,
Well, there's stories about
was
guys jumping in
bullshit.
front of trains. Like it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you heard that the war was over, and these people would just like jump in
or,
front of a train.
or keep fighting on islands until the 1970s.
Yeah, that was
Right.
was
Yeah.
like 3 guys. Though.
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
was.
I mean, go watch.
That's still
go
3
watch-
more than Americans.
Exactly.
Oh, I believe. But look, we kept fighting the
Exactly.
Vietnam War up until about a week ago.
I know,
Yeah.
like, pretty much.
Who
You know,
saw
also
Sin
going back
City?
to roots, that the James Clavell wrote this, right? The guy who did
Yes.
Shogun. He was in this camp,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
like the last one. The guy
Well,
who wrote
he's
it,
basically
was there.
James Fox.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Ah.
yeah, exactly. It's like nuts. These
wow.
guys were trying to basically tell their story in a way that was, like
There
And
are
the
a
two
couple of
guys who
real.
wrote
There are a couple of
Stalag
real POWs
17
in this
were
too.
yeah, they are.
Actually, in a camp called Stalag 17B.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you could feel New Hollywood pulling on the. Sorry,
It was
French-
sort of,
pulling.
You could feel it cranking it up. It's
could-
cranking up.
This right around the same time, I think John Borman made Hell in the Pacific with Toshiro.
That's right.
Like where it was like we're gonna tweak this just a little bit, and I'm watching this movie and you can feel like it's like John, I agree with you. It is not 100% successful. I really enjoyed it, especially compared to the last thing. But you can feel like it's clumsy here, it's clumsy there, but I felt like it stuck the landing. But
Yeah.
and you can feel the influence of it's okay to, instead of like war movies have to be like this. No, we're gonna go over here, maybe be a little ambiguous here. We're
This-
gonna
Compare
like-
this to The Longest Day, which came out in 62.
oh god.
I mean, one's
Yeah.
like this patriotic, like the longest day, we're gonna do
I
D-Day,
mean, this is
and this is like,
not America. Fuck yeah.
yeah, exactly right. This is
Well,
not
no.
America. Fuck
Okay,
yeah,
so
at
you're
all.
talking about
It's
what-
the most like
It's not
Cool
even
Hand
Britain,
Luke of
fuck
the
yeah,
movies
really.
we've watched recently.
A little bit.
yeah.
It's not even Japan. Fuck yeah. It's not even Singapore. Fuck yeah. It's I don't know what the hell it is, but it's
But
like
that's
there's
why I love They Were Expendable, because They Were Expendable is made during the war.
yes,
And it is very much like this fucking sucks.
I know.
Like,
and we're all
why
gonna
are we
die, and they
doing this?
do.
right. Yeah, like why are we doing this? Like this is awful.
I know.
Like-
That was good. That's a good film.
That's
But it
definitely
Needs to go on a list.
So the
Yeah.
guy
it's on my
that-
list.
I've only seen one other of this guy's movies, and it was the original Stepford Wives, which I still find a
Whoa.
sucker factor of like 9.8 by the end of it.
That movie works.
Oh my
That
god,
movie-
that's on my. That's
That
on
movie,
my
when she shows up with the black eyes, like
stop!
night-
We're gonna.
that is nightmare.
Someone's going to pick this film. Shut up.
That is fucking. Good luck finding it, Scott. That,
Oh, I'll
ending of
provide
Stepford
it, man.
Wives
It's
is a nightmare.
so good.
but I don't know that this guy did a lot of other things.
Not really. No.
But I
Was
thought,
he was British, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was an actor too. for a
Like I
while.
said, it's like this is a neat production because
Everyone thinks this is a British.
stuff.
Everyone thinks this is a British movie. It was made by an American studio
Yeah.
in LA.
Thousand Oaks.
In
Right.
Thousand Oaks. It could be more American if they tried. It's crazy.
God, you would never know.
I know
Right.
it's great.
fucking great. And
Yeah,
the
it does.
Here we go.
photography-
I think it's thumbs
Great.
time, man.
This transfer is incredible.
It is.
Mhm.
I found a better version and it looked way better. Yeah, no, this is solid.
This
up.
is a really good movie.
And a rarity
movie.
too. It's not a lot of people have seen this film. It's just good stuff.
Good. I enjoyed the
Yeah.
shit out of it.